Sarah Martin was the star employee of the sales department at Kurukdal Trust Financial Company, located among the skyscrapers rising in Chicago's financial center. For 5 years, she had brought the highest sales figures to the company and tripled the client portfolio. At 42, Sarah was respected in the industry for her sharp intelligence, analytical thinking, and extraordinary skill in customer relations, and was held up as an example among her colleagues. Just last year, she had brought in $30 million in new investments to the company and managed to add industry giants like Lincoln Investments to her client list. Every morning when she entered her office on the 47th floor of the plaza overlooking Lake Michigan, even Diane at reception would greet her with a special smile, jokingly saying, "Here comes our company's golden girl." Other employees who heard these words knew Sarah Martin was a legend, an expert who successfully concluded even seemingly impossible deals. Sarah spent the first hours of the day reviewing client reports. While sipping her coffee, she would analyze the charts on the screen, anticipating her clients' financial needs before they did. The walls of her office were filled with photographs taken after successful deals, thank you letters, and Employee of the Year plaques. The magnificent view of Chicago was visible from her window, and the sky reminded her of limitless opportunities every morning. Sarah's personal life appeared as orderly as her career. She and her husband Michael had never experienced a major crisis in their 15-year marriage. Michael was a partner at a prestigious law firm in northern Chicago and was a respected figure in the city's social circles. Handsome, well-dressed, and always polite, Michael never let go of Sarah's hand at society events and expressed his pride in her at every opportunity. Their 12-year-old daughter, Emily, attended the Gifted Students program at North Shore Country Day School. She was a student talked about among parents for her brilliant intelligence, piano talent, and success in tennis tournaments. Every evening, they would discuss how their days went over dinner, and on weekends, they would visit museums as a family. Their restored Victorian-style home in Highland Park had been featured in architectural magazines. Their house, filled with antique furniture, large marble fireplaces, and carefully selected art pieces, was an indication of a tasteful life. The century-old oak trees in their garden and custom-designed pool were essential venues for the parties they organized for their neighbors in summer. They presented the picture of a happy family, even hosting Sunday brunches. At least, that's how it appeared from the outside. When Sarah snoozed her alarm for the third time that morning, she felt something wasn't right. For the past few months, she had been suffering from insomnia, waking up to the sound of Michael's constantly incoming messages at night. Her husband would dismiss it each time, saying, "Work, honey, an important case." But Sarah knew that Michael had never worked this late before. Weekends had changed too. Michael had started playing golf with Richard, Thomas, and other colleagues at the country club, or going out of town for special business meetings. When he returned from these meetings, Sarah sensed a different perfume scent on him, but accused herself of being paranoid. Maybe it's just the smell of a new car, she thought. After all, everyone was given new cars during the last company trip. When she finally got out of bed, she looked at the clock. 8:15. The meeting would start at 9 o'clock, and it would take at least 35 minutes to get to the office in Chicago traffic. She quickly got into the shower, put her hair in a bun without time to dry it, put on her favorite gray suit, checked the breakfast she had prepared for Emily, and left the house. "Michael, can you drop Emily off at school today?" she called out as she was leaving. Michael was already dressed and ready. He was tying his tie in the mirror. "Sorry, honey. I have an early meeting in Northbrook. I called Diane and told her to pick up Emily," he said, without looking at his wife. Sarah paused. "Diane? You're sending your secretary to take our daughter to school?" "She's my assistant, not a secretary," Michael corrected. "Besides, I didn't think there was a problem. You've also left Emily with Jessica several times when going to the office. Jessica is our neighbor, Michael, for 25 years, Sarah replied, unable to hide the impatience in her voice. Anyway, I don't have time to argue. I have an important meeting today. On a Monday morning, Sarah was late for the department meeting. This was unusual for her. She quickly got ready and jumped into the car. Traffic was heavier than usual, as if the whole city was conspiring against her. There was an accident on Lakeshore Drive. Alternative routes were congested. There was an accident on Lakeshore Drive. Alternative routes were congested. Sarah hit her hands on the steering wheel in frustration. It shouldn't have been today, she muttered. Of all days, the day the promotion would be discussed. When she entered the lobby of Kurukdal Trust, she headed for the elevator with hurried steps. Everyone seemed to be ignoring her. Even the security guard, Frank, who normally smiled at her, merely nodded in greeting. During the 47th-floor elevator ride, Sarah took deep breaths, fixed her hair, and checked her files. When she reached the office floor, she saw that the meeting had already started. Everyone had gathered in the glass-walled conference room. She was 15 minutes late for the meeting. As she entered the glass-walled conference room, she felt all eyes turned to her. CEO Richard Wilson paused his speech and directed the attention of the entire room to her. Sarah, thank you for finally joining us. I was just announcing the company's new management structure. Sarah wiped her perspiration-dampened forehead, apologized, and took the empty chair at the table. There was a strange expression on the faces of those in the room. Some looked at her as if they pitied her, while others avoided eye contact. At the other end of the table sat Jason Bennett, about 35 years old, gleaming in his sharp-lined suit. He was looking at Sarah with a gleam of victory in his eyes. Jason had joined the company 8 months ago, was a recent Yale graduate, and was the son of Richard's golf buddy. Richard continued with his explanation. As I was saying, Jason Bennett will now be the new manager of the sales department. His connections with our clients in the technology sector and innovative sales strategies have particularly impressed the board of directors. Sarah froze. The pen in her hand slipped from her fingers and fell to the ground. She had been working for that position for 5 years. She had been selected Employee of the Year 3 times in a row. Jason, on the other hand, had only joined the company 8 months ago and had always remained in Sarah's shadow, even asking for her help several times in meetings with big clients. Moreover, what he called innovative sales strategies was actually a slightly modified version of the model Sarah had developed. As the meeting continued, Sarah's mind became foggy. Richard's words buzzed in her ears. Restructuring, efficiency, digital transformation. Sarah knew these were just excuses to bring Jason to that position. She looked at the files in her bag, her project, prepared specifically for this meeting, that would completely change the company's sales strategy and increase profits by 20%, was now useless. When the meeting ended and everyone surrounded Jason to congratulate him, Sarah took a deep breath and headed to Richard's office. She entered without knocking. Richard was standing by the window, watching the deep blue waters of Lake Michigan. For a moment, he turned and looked at Sarah, then turned back to the lake. Why not me, Richard? I've contributed to Kurukdal getting to this point. I brought Lincoln Investments to the company. I made the deal with Northwestern Mutual. If the company's revenue increased by 40% last year, 70% of that came from clients I brought in. What did Jason do? He brought in 2 small companies that his Yale professor knew. That's all. Richard moved behind his desk, as if seeking a shield. He looked uncomfortable, loosened his tie, and opened his collar. Sarah, you know things don't always work fairly. We think Jason has a fresh perspective. Plus, he has an MBA from Northwestern University and is a member of the same club as some board members. I have an MBA too, Richard, from Chicago Booth, with honors, not to mention my 10 years of experience. I was in this industry when Jason was still a baby. Richard focused on his computer screen, avoiding Sarah's eyes. The decision has been made, Sarah. Jason starts on Monday. If you don't want to work with him, you can consider your alternatives. A bitter smile appeared on Sarah's face. Consider my alternatives? So you're threatening to fire me, Richard? Think about how you're going to explain this to Lincoln Investments. Oh, yes, Sarah no longer works with us because, we can't actually explain why we fired her, but we preferred Jason, who's my son's age, instead. Richard's face turned red. I don't like being threatened, Sarah. Just be realistic. The company is changing. You need to adapt. Working with Jason will be good for you, too. As Sarah left the office, despite deep disappointment, she felt a determination within her. She would not bow to this injustice. That day, after work, she picked up Emily from school and took a long walk with her daughter along the shore of Lake Michigan. Emily sensed that her mother was upset, but didn't ask. She just held her hand and walked silently beside her. When Sarah returned home, it was 9 in the evening. The lights of their 2-story Victorian-style home in Highland Park were on. When she entered, she found Michael writing something on his computer in his study. Michael had been working in this room lately, not in the bedroom, not in the kitchen, not on the comfortable couch in the living room. This small study had become a symbol of distance in their home. Michael was so absorbed in the screen that he didn't even hear his wife come in. Sarah gently tapped on the door. Michael quickly closed the screen. This action caught Sarah's attention, but she didn't comment. "What happened?" Michael asked, shutting his computer. The alarm in his eyes indicated that he didn't want Sarah to see what was on the screen. Sarah threw her bag and jacket onto the couch and sat down in the chair next to Michael. "I didn't get the promotion. In fact, they brought in Jason instead, a man who's been with the company for just 8 months. What do you mean? Last week, Richard was talking to you as if it was almost guaranteed." "Richard, he's in on it too. They all planned behind my back." Sarah stood up with anger inside her, went to the kitchen, and poured herself a glass of wine. She leaned against the kitchen counter and took a large sip of her wine. The fatigue and disappointment of the day suddenly weighed on her. "I gave 10 years to that company, Michael. I was at the office at 7 every morning, worked until 9 in the evening. I missed birthdays, our wedding anniversaries. I wasn't even at Emily's school performances most of the time." Michael came over to her and put his hand on Sarah's shoulder. However, there was no intimacy in this touch, as there used to be. It felt as if it was done merely as a formality. "Maybe it's opened a door for something better," he said in a calm voice. "Maybe it's time for you to leave that company. Harrison and Partners made an offer last month. Remember?" Sarah slammed her wine glass on the table, red wine splashing onto the marble counter. "How can you say that so easily? I gave 10 years there. This is my career, my life at stake. You know how important it is to me." "I'm just trying to help, Sarah. You don't need to dramatize everything." Sarah looked at her husband in disbelief. It was as if a stranger was standing in front of her. The man who had been by her side in every difficult moment for 15 years was gone, replaced by someone cold and distant. "If you want to help, talk to Richard tomorrow. He's your golf buddy after all. You're together at the country club every weekend. Tell him that I've been treated unfairly." Michael sighed and took a paper towel to clean the wine stain. His movements were calm, too calm. "I can't interfere in your work life, Sarah. That's not professional. What would Richard think of me meddling in his business? Besides, I can't risk my friendship with him." "Risk your friendship? What about my career? Our marriage? Can they be put at risk?" Sarah's voice was trembling now, her eyes filled with tears. "You've been like this lately, as if you and my problems don't matter to you." Michael didn't answer, just shrugged. Sarah became even more angry at his indifferent attitude. The tension between them had become palpable. There had been a coldness in their marriage for the past few months anyway, but today something seemed to have broken. Sarah headed for the bedroom, slamming the door hard behind her. She wanted to be alone, to think. She lay on the bed and watched the ceiling for a long time. Michael had turned on the television downstairs and was watching a basketball game he liked. When Chicago Bulls won, Michael's cheering could be heard, as if there were no problems in the house. Before falling asleep, Sarah checked her phone and looked at her work emails. There was a message from Jason. Be at the office at 8:30 tomorrow. We need to talk about moving your office. Sarah trembled with anger. Jason had already started acting like a boss. The following week, Sarah was now working under Jason's management. The new manager had asked her to empty her old desk and move to the small office at the end of the corridor. Your status has changed now, he had said with a grin. The corner office is not suitable for someone at your level. As Sarah moved her belongings to her new office, she wondered what Jason's first action would be. She didn't have to wait long for the answer. I'll be managing the Lincoln Investments account, Jason said as he entered Sarah's new office. It looked like an old storage room. It didn't even have a window. Corporate policy, he added with a grin. Managers should handle big accounts. Sarah was furious, but tried to keep her cool. I've been managing that account since Lincoln started working with us. Daniel Roberts specifically stated that he wanted to work with me. Well, now he'll be working with me. Besides, you like talking to my colleagues, don't you? I like that little argument you had with Richard. You threatened him, Sarah. Threats are unacceptable in this company. Sarah's eyes narrowed. Threats? I just told the truth. Lincoln Investments is here because of me, and everyone knows that. It doesn't matter anymore, said Jason, turning toward the door. I'm going to call Daniel now and introduce myself as their new manager. I'll gradually take over your other clients as well. If you think I'm inexperienced, you're wrong. I can do this job at least as well as you can. Sarah ate lunch in her office that day, not talking to anyone. Previously, everyone in the sales department would be around her, asking for her ideas and seeking advice. Now everyone was around Jason. They were even hesitant to greet Sarah, as if she carried a disease. Cowardly herd, thought Sarah. They immediately changed direction once the wind shifted. That evening, while staying late at the office to complete some reports, she saw the light in Jason's office. His door was ajar, and he was talking to Richard inside. Normally, Sarah wouldn't eavesdrop, but her instincts told her to approach. I'll gradually take Sarah's clients, then we can fire her on the grounds of poor performance, Jason was saying. Richard laughed. Good plan. We need to cut costs, and her salary is high. Also, I have a friend who wants to take over the Lincoln Investments account. If you handle this, I can arrange a position for you on the board of directors. What if Sarah shows resistance? She can be quite stubborn. Don't worry, we can handle her. A few negative performance evaluations, a few missed meetings. We'll find enough material. No one can stay at Kurukdal forever. In shock, Sarah recorded the conversation with her phone. She felt her hands trembling. Her heart was racing fast. What would she do now? Confront them directly? Resign? Or wait and gather more evidence? Sarah went to the bedroom after a long and exhausting day. When she checked the messages on her phone, she saw a message from Michael. Having drinks with friends, will be home late. She looked at the time, 00:45. Which friends could be out until this hour? Michael usually attended happy hour with colleagues and would return home by 9 at the latest. Sarah got into the shower, trying to relieve the day's stress with the relaxing effect of hot water. She spent long minutes under the water, as if she could erase all her problems with the flowing water. However, her mind was on both the problems at work and the recent changes in her marriage. Michael had changed over the past few months. He talked less, came home late at night, and was constantly going out for business meetings on weekends. He had also started using new perfumes and going to the gym, things he had never done in their 15-year marriage. A thought occurred to Sarah. What if Michael was changing, or... No, it couldn't be. Michael wouldn't cheat on her. Their marriage was different, strong, resilient, but still, those long working hours, delayed messages, mysterious business trips, they all pointed in the same direction. When she got out of the shower, her phone rang. Michael's name was on the screen. She looked at the time. 01:20. "Where were you?" she asked, with a mixture of concern and suspicion in her voice. "I told you, with colleagues." Michael's voice sounded strange, a bit drunk, a bit hurried. "Until this hour, which place are you at? I'll come and join you." "Well, actually, we're disbanding now. We're going to John's house. We need to sign some documents." "John? Which John? There's no John in your firm." Sarah's voice had hardened. "John, the new partner. I introduced him to you last week. Don't you remember? Anyway, I'm leaving now. We'll talk later." Michael hung up. However, the call was cut off before Sarah could respond. A few seconds later, a message came. "We're waiting for a taxi. I'll be home in 20 minutes. This message was followed by another one, but this time from someone else. "You sent the message to the wrong person, Pumpkin. I'm waiting for you in the taxi. Must you wait?" Sarah's heart seemed to stop. Pumpkin? Michael hadn't addressed her like that in years. With the phone in her hand, she left the bedroom and entered Michael's study. Her husband's laptop was on the desk. She opened the laptop. It asked for a password. She tried the password she knew. Birth date, wedding anniversaries, Emily's birthday. None of them worked. Michael had put a new password. Sarah hesitated for a moment. She didn't actually want to invade her husband's private space, but the suspicion inside her was growing. She turned to the phone, this time checking Michael's tablet. The tablet didn't have a password. Sarah opened the email application, trembling slightly. There were hundreds of emails, most related to work. But then an email chain titled, "Our Vacation Plans," caught her eye. She clicked. All the emails were between Michael and Jessica Henderson. Jessica was Michael's new assistant at the law firm, a 27-year-old woman who had recently moved from Los Angeles with beauty that could rival models. Michael had mentioned her a few times at the office, but Sarah had never paid attention. "Jessica is my assistant, very talented," Michael had said one evening.